The wind screamed across the frozen plains of Karsus. 9. Carving white scars through the night. Snow whipped against the metallic shell of Outpost Delta 17, where a squad of Galactic Union soldiers crouched inside the dim glow of a heater core, checking their weapons. The storm was worsening, but the sensors had already sounded an alert. Movement in the valley, far too organized to be the wind. Captain Vale's crystalline carapace flickered faintly as he reviewed the readings. His voice, a soft, resonant hum, cut through the static. Threx signatures confirmed. 80 units, possibly more. Defensive formation in 20. Around him, his squad moved with efficient precision. Tvor, the reptilian marksman, loaded plasma cells into his rifle, his tail twitching in agitation. Kirin, the feathered comms officer, muttered to herself while recalibrating the motion sensors. They were veterans, trained, armed, and unshakable. Yet each of them paused when the heavy door slid open, letting in a gust of snow and a figure wrapped in white camouflage. Sergeant Marcus Hale stamped the frost from his boots, his breath steaming through the scarf wrapped around his face. The humans had only recently joined the Union, and most aliens still viewed them as curiosities from a backwater world. But what drew the squad's eyes wasn't Hale himself. It was the weapon slung across his back. A massive rifle, long and angular, with a thick barrel perforated by cooling holes and a belt of solid metal rounds draped from its side. For Bart to laugh. "What is that thing, human? A relic from your Stone Age." Hale gave a slow, easy grin, the kind that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Something like that." He moved to a bench, unslinging the rifle with careful reverence. "Her name's Mona." Captain Vale tilted his head. "That weapon is ballistic, is it not? Primitive chemical propulsion? You intend to face Threx armor with that?" "Yep." Hale began checking the chamber, ignoring the incredulous stares. The scent of oil and metal drifted through the air. "Plasma won't cut through their shell plating. Kinetic energy will." Kirin ruffled her feathers. "The Union's best engineers have tried. It's inefficient. Wasteful." "Maybe," Hale said, sliding around into the chamber with a satisfying click, "but it works." The squad exchanged looks. The human's calmness unsettled them. There was something in his tone, a quiet certainty that came from too many battles fought the hard way. Vale decided to drop the matter. "Prepare for engagement. We will see whose methods prevail soon enough." They moved outside into the biting storm. The world beyond the outpost was a landscape of jagged ice and silent trees, the sky choked with swirling snow. Visibility dropped to 20 meters. The squad took positions along a ridge overlooking the valley below. Hale knelt at the edge, setting Mona on her bipod, his movements deliberate and practiced. He wore no powered armor, no neural visor, just a simple scope and instinct. The others activated thermal overlays and grav shields. Through their visors, the Threx swarmed below, dozens of insectoid shapes, their black exoskeletons gleaming like obsidian under the faint aurora. Tvor clicked his tongue. "Their armor refracts plasma. Aim for joints." Or, Hale murmured, "shoot straight through it." Vale frowned, watching the human adjust his scope manually, fingers bare in the cold. "Your weapon lacks auto-aim synchronization. How do you expect to hit anything?" "By pulling the trigger at the right time," Hale said simply. There was a moment of silence, broken only by the wind. Then Kirin laughed softly. "You humans are unbelievable." "Yeah," Hale replied. "That's what they tell me." Below, the Threx began their ascent. Fast, purposeful, their many legs cutting through the snow. The squad tensed. Vale signaled for quiet. The storm muffled all sound except the steady hum of plasma, rifles charging. The first Threx scouts crested the hill, their mandibles clicking, sensors glowing an eerie green. "Hold," Vale whispered. Hale's breathing slowed. His gloved finger rested against the trigger. Through the scope, he tracked one of the Threx, a hulking creature armored like a tank, its chest pulsing with bioluminescent veins. He adjusted for wind, for distance, for instinct. The aliens opened fire first. Plasma bolts lit the snow like blue lightning. sizzling against the storm. The Threx retaliated, their acidic projectiles burning craters into the ridge. The squad ducked behind cover, shouting over comms. Vale barked orders, Kieran relayed coordinates, and Tvor's shots cracked through the haze. But the Threx kept coming, relentless. Hale stayed motionless, perfectly still. Then, boom. The sound shattered the night, a raw concussion that silenced every other noise. The recoil kicked snow into the air. Down below, a Threx soldier jerked violently and collapsed, its chest cavity blown open. The others froze in confusion. Vale turned sharply. What was that? Hale racked another round, the mechanical clack echoing like a challenge. That, he said, was thunder. Another shot roared through the storm. Another Threx fell. The alien squad watched in disbelief as the ancient rifle tore through armor their plasma couldn't scratch. Kieran's voice trembled. He's killing them with metal? High-velocity metal. Hale corrected, reloading without looking away from his scope. His tone was steady, almost gentle. Threx armor spreads heat. It doesn't stop force. The Threx began to scatter, sensing the new threat. Hale adjusted again, tracking movement through the blizzard. Each trigger pull was a punctuation mark in the chaos, a brutal, rhythmic thunder that split the night apart. Vale crouched beside him, all breaking through his disciplined composure. Your weapon, it's monstrous. Hale's eyes never left the scope. You wanted results, Captain. You're getting them. The alien captain hesitated, then gave a nod. Very well, Sergeant. Show us how humans wage war. The Threx regrouped for another push. The ridge trembled with their advance. Hale exhaled slowly, adjusting his aim for the commander beast lumbering at the center of the swarm. The wind screamed again, but he heard only his heartbeat. He pulled the trigger. The leader exploded in a burst of green ichor, the body collapsing into the snow. For an instant, everything was still. Then the remaining Threx broke formation and fled into the storm, leaving silence behind. Hale lifted his head from the scope, frost clinging to his eyelashes. The squad stared at him in stunned quiet. For finally spoke, his voice low. Humans brought a monster. Hale gave a faint, tired smile. No, he said, loading another round. We just brought what we needed. The wind carried the last echoes of his words into the white night, where thunder had once again found its voice. The valley was silent for less than a minute before the Threx adapted. Hale knew at the moment the snow shifted in unnatural ripples. The swarm had gone underground, tunneling beneath the ice to flank their position. He rose from his firing stance and slung Mona across his back, scanning the treeline with sharp, deliberate eyes. The others looked to him instinctively now, no longer with mockery, but with wary expectation. They're not retreating, Hale said, his voice cutting through the wind. They're repositioning. They hunt like wolves, fast and coordinated. We need higher ground. Captain Vale processed the words instantly, his crystalline body pulsing with faint light as he transmitted orders through the squad's comms. Form a defensive retreat. Maintain visual triangulation. The team moved with new discipline. Hale led the way up a frozen ridge, motioning for Tvor and Kieran to cover the flanks. Snow crunched beneath their boots, the sound drowned beneath the low rumble of movement underground. The human's every gesture carried a sense of practiced urgency, the kind that came from years of surviving fights that should have killed him. When they reached a ledge overlooking the valley, Hale dropped to one knee, unpacking ammunition belts and anchoring Mona's tripod into the ice. The others set up energy barriers in a semicircle. Below them, the snow began to fracture. The first Threx burst through in a shower of white dust, claws gleaming like obsidian. Plasma fire erupted instantly, filling the air with burning ozone. The Threx charged straight into it, heedless of the energy bolts that glanced harmlessly off their armor. Hale lined up a shot and fired once, then again. Each crack of Mona's rifle felt like an explosion against the storm. Kieran shouted over the noise. How are they still advancing? You killed their commander. Different brood, Hale replied, chambering another round. They follow scent trails, not orders. The Threx moved like a black tide, climbing over their fallen kin. Hale adjusted for the slope, firing methodically. Every shot found a target, every recoil a thunderclap. His face was expressionless, but his eyes burned with a steady, grim focus. The aliens around him moved faster now, covering him instinctively as though his calm anchored their own panic. For crouched beside him, reloading his plasma rifle. You fought creatures like this before? Hale didn't look away from a scope. Not like this. But I met their kind, things that don't fear, don't stop, don't think. You learn to aim for what keeps them moving. He fired again. The Threx's front line collapsed, bodies tumbling into the snow. A brief gap opened, and Hale took it, swinging Mona toward the base of a jagged ice ridge where a larger silhouette loomed. Through the scope, he saw a new figure, a Threx siege beast, its body encased in layered carapace, dragging an organic cannon fused to its limbs. It reared back and launched a glowing orb toward them. Down! Hale shouted. The orb struck the ridge below and detonated, blasting a geyser of ice shards into the air. The squad was thrown backward. Vale's shield flickered and failed, fragments of crystal scattering as he struggled to reform. Hale was already moving, rolling to his feet and dragging Mona with him. He set her back on the tripod, unflinching despite the ringing in his ears. The Threx siege beast reloaded, its thorax swelling. Captain, Hale barked. I need them in the open. Vale understood. Can draw them out. Full plasma spread. The two aliens obeyed, firing continuous bursts at the advancing swarm. The air filled with streaks of blue fire. The Threx responded with shrieks that made the ice tremble, swarming toward the source of the light. Hale inhaled deeply, the world narrowing to the scope's viewfinder. Wind, distance, movement. His pulse slowed until he could hear nothing but his breath. The siege beast's chest glowed brighter as it prepared to fire again. Hale squeezed the trigger. The shot split the night. The round tore through the creature's core, shattering armor and rupturing its biocannon in a violent green explosion. Acidic mist rained across the battlefield as the remaining Threx hesitated, disoriented by the loss of their heavy support. Thor turned to stare at the human, his voice a low growl of disbelief. That was impossible. Hale wiped frost from his brow. No such thing, just physics. He began reloading, hands steady despite the chaos. The others took renewed courage, tightening their formation around him. Plasma fire crackled, and Kieran's voice rose through the comms. They're pulling back, the swarms breaking apart. Vale's crystalline light pulsed with relief. Maintain fire. Do not let them regroup. The squad fought with a rhythm now, guided by Hale's clipped orders. Every time he spoke, the aliens moved without question. For the first time, the cold dread that had hung over them since the battle began gave way to focus, even hope. Minutes later, silence returned once more. The Threx retreated fully into the snowstorm, leaving only the faint glow of their acidic blood on the ground. The battlefield stank of ozone and burning chitin. Hale sat back, exhaling slowly, his breath misting in the air. His hands were raw from the cold, but he reached down to pat Mona's barrel affectionately. You're still singing, girl. Captain Vale approached, his crystalline frame cracked but stable. He studied the massive rifle with cautious reverence. Your weapon defies logic. Our energy systems cannot replicate that impact. It's not about logic, Hale said, adjusting the bipod. It's about intent. We built these to stop machines, tanks, monsters. Turns out, that's still useful. Kieran stepped closer, eyes wide. You humans keep such weapons in museums, don't you? Why bring one here? Hale looked toward the valley, where faint shapes still moved beneath the snow. Because the galaxy thinks war's clean now. We forgot what it looks like when it's dirty. His tone hardened. Monsters don't stop for clean wars. The storm howled louder, covering the field with new snow. The others stood in silence, each feeling the weight of his words. Finally, Vale spoke softly. You've changed how I see your species, Sergeant Hale. I thought humans were fragile, but I see now, You endure through brutality. Hale glanced at him, eyes tired but sharp. We don't endure through it, Captain. We endure because of it. A flicker of movement caught his eye below. He lifted his scope again, scanning the horizon. Shapes were gathering. More Threx, perhaps larger than before. His jaw tightened. They're coming back, he murmured. And this time, they've learned. He reached for a fresh ammunition belt, locking it into place. The soft metallic click echoed in the cold. The others followed his gaze, dread creeping back into their bones. Round 2, Hale said quietly. Let's finish the lesson. The horizon burned faint green beneath the storm as dawn struggled through the clouds. The Threx were returning, their shapes emerging from the snow like living shadows. Hale crouched at the ridge, Mona balanced before him, the rifle's barrel frosted white from the cold. Around him, the squad made hurried repairs to their gear. Power cells blinked low, armor cracked, but no one complained. Fear had been replaced by resolve. They knew what waited below, and they knew who stood between them and annihilation. Captain Vale watched Hale work, the human's movements quiet and deliberate. The crystalline officer spoke softly, his voice resonating like wind through glass. Our weapons are nearly depleted. We have enough charge for one sustained volley, no more. Hale didn't look up. Then we make that volley count. They're testing us, probing the same weak points they hit last time. We'll draw them where we want them, not the other way around. Vale tilted his head. You plan to lure them? Exactly. Hale stood, scanning the slope below. We'll fall back to that ridgeline. It's narrow, forces them to bunch up. Kirin, set a beacon there. When they breach, we'll light them up. The avian soldier nodded and darted into the snow, wings half folded against the wind. The others followed Hale's lead without hesitation now. The man who'd once been the squad's curiosity had become its anchor. His confidence was not bravado. It was born from experience carved into his bones. Minutes later, the first Threx wave hit. They surged forward, more coordinated, their armor gleaming with a new layer of reflective plating scavenged from fallen kin. The air filled with their screeches, a sound that sliced through the storm like metal grinding on metal. Hale waited until they were close enough to smell the acid in their breath. Now, the squad opened fire. Plasma bolts and kinetic rounds converged in a storm of light. The ridge lit up with flashes of blue and red, the snow melting into steam beneath the onslaught. The Threx climbed over their fallen, unrelenting, their movements rhythmic and terrifying. Hale fired methodically, each shot breaking the charge, slowing the tide, forcing hesitation into a creature that shouldn't have known fear. Then, a heavier vibration rumbled beneath them. The ground shuddered. Hale's instinct screamed. Burrowers, they're coming from below. Before the others could react, the snow exploded around them. Enormous Threx warriors erupted from the ice, their claws slicing through air and armor alike. Thor was thrown back, his plasma rifle skittering across the ground. Kirin shrieked, narrowly avoiding a strike as Hale swung Mona around, firing point-blank. The recoil slammed into his shoulder, but the shot blew a hole clean through the creature's torso. Vale's crystalline body fractured as he shielded Kirin from a collapsing ridge. The captain fell hard, his limbs dimming. Hale dropped beside him, pressing a gloved hand against the glowing fracture lines. Stay with me, Captain. We're not done yet. Vale's voice flickered. Sergeant, your people are madness. Maybe, Hale muttered, rising again, but it's the kind that wins. He turned, eyes narrowing on the largest Threx emerging from the smoke. A new leader, taller, plated in black and silver, carrying the faint bioluminescent scars of old wounds. The creature raised its claws and shrieked, the sound vibrating through the ice. Every surviving soldier froze. Hale's breath fogged in the air as he steadied Mona on the ridge. He whispered to himself, "One last song, girl." He sighted the creature through the scope. The wind screamed, dragging snow across the glass. The Threx advanced, its armored hide glinting. Hale adjusted for wind drift, exhaled, and fired. The shot hit dead center, but this time the round ricocheted. The armor held. The monster roared and charged. Fall back, Vale shouted, struggling to his feet. Hale didn't move. He racked another round, chambering it manually. No, I've got it. He shifted his aim slightly lower, remembering every battlefield, every monstrous thing he'd fought before. He waited until the creature was almost on him, close enough that its heat warped the air. Then he fired again. The round punched through the creature's leg joint, shattering the limb. It crashed forward, howling in fury. Hale fired twice more, each shot deliberate, unflinching, until the final bullet tore through its head. The battlefield fell silent. Steam rose from the fallen giant's corpse. The remaining Threx hesitated, their unity broken, their instinct faltering. Then they fled, disappearing into the white horizon. Hale lowered his rifle. His arms trembled from exhaustion, but his expression didn't change. Around him, the squad stood slowly, stunned by the quiet. The storm had softened, its rage spent. Kieran approached first, her voice hushed. It's over. For now, Hale said. They'll come again. They always do. Vale limped to his side, crystalline surface flickering faintly. Your weapon, he said quietly. It shouldn't exist. It's too crude, too savage. And yet, he paused, searching for words. It saved us all. Hale looked down at Mona, steam curling from the barrel. Tools don't save people, Captain. People do. We just find ways to make our survival louder. Tor let out a low, weary laugh. Loud is one word for it. The squad began collecting what they could, their silence no longer heavy with fear, but with awe. Hale stood apart, watching the valley below where the snow was stained green and black. He thought of the other worlds out there, civilizations that saw humans as primitives, relics of a violent past. Let them think that, he mused. Maybe they were right. Vale approached again, his tone gentler now. Sergeant Hale, the Union will want a full report. They'll study your rifle, your methods. They'll try to understand. Let them try, Hale said, slinging Mona over his shoulder. Understanding isn't the same as surviving. They walked together back toward the battered outpost, the sun bleeding pale light over the horizon. The storm had finally begun to die, but the silence it left behind carried its own kind of weight. As they reached the base, Kieran turned to look back at the ridge. You know what they'll call that weapon now, don't you? Hale gave a small, humorless smile. Doesn't matter what they call it. It does, she insisted. They'll call it the monster. He paused, considering that, then nodded. Fitting enough. He turned toward the sky, watching the distant glow of departing Threx ships fade into the atmosphere. The wind had grown gentler, brushing against his face like a warning yet to come. He could feel it. This war wasn't over, just paused. Somewhere out there, the next monster was waiting to be made. Let them come, he murmured. We've got more thunder left.